about a year ago when these CBA rules weren't implemented. And it seems like the Wizards are very active this offseason, especially with the draft, which, quite frankly, is our next segment. We wanted to talk a little bit about the NBA draft, a little bit of recap, who were the winners, who were the losers, and grading each team that participated alongside the Washington Wizards. First and foremost, wanted to talk a little bit about Victor Wembanyama and the San Antonio Spurs. Not only am I just amazed, about how Wembanyama was an incredible player, how he does incredible things. He's a 7'5", basically plays like a guard, so that right there, I think that you get an A grade. But they were able to attain a guy, in the second round named Sidi Sissoko, who I have been high on and who I think is going to provide some great value down the road. What do you think, Doc?
How can you give them anything but an A+? They have the most versatile prospect we've ever seen ever in our lifetime. Who knows if we'll ever see anything like that again. And I think that they have one of the perfect young ball handlers who's played he played pro. He was the backup to Scoot Henderson. He understands how to play pro ball. I think he's perfect to grow and develop with Victor. They might move off of him later, but for right now, that's a steal. A+ all the way for the Spurs.
Yeah, I think we're both in agreement on that one, but we might disagree on this one. Now, I have been a big fan of the Hornets organization. I think that they made some pretty fun moves. They got LaMelo Ball, who's a very exciting player, but I am just not high on Brandon Miller. I do really like the fact that they were able to acquire Nick Smith Jr., and they did make a move to get James Nagy, towards the end. I think they made a trade there, and they got Amari Bailey, who could be decent. I'm not too high on him as well. I watched him in the combine, wasn't too sold on his play, but he is a second rounder. I figured he'd be as much. But Brandon Miller, I see there's potential there. People are saying that he could be the next Paul George. I see him. I think he's going to be a good player. I really do. But I really think that of these top three picks, having Victor Wembanyama, Brandon Miller, Scoot Henderson, there's got to be one that probably doesn't pan out as much as you would think. And maybe on a redraft in the future, looking down the road, maybe Brandon Miller slips. I think for me, I'm going to give the Hornets a B overall. I think Brandon Miller could turn into something special. Maybe he fits really well with LaMelo, being an off-ball guy. What do you think?
Yeah, I love Brandon Miller. I love his bravado, too. I love the fact that he's a rookie who has never played a pro game in his life, and he says that he sees the Hornets in the NBA Finals next season. That's obviously a stretch.
That's weird.
We know it's not going to happen.
Odd.
But it reminds me of a young Ja Morant. Ja Morant, when he was a rookie, said, "I'm not afraid of anybody in that league." And I liked that. So what I'm interested to see is if he can talk the talk. I get that. I want to see the man walk the walk now. You know what I mean? So, I hear you, young blood. I like it. But let me see you put those numbers up. So I'm going to give them an A because I love Nick Smith at 27. That was a total steal. And now they have 4 players who, honestly, if they don't pan out, are still assets, tradable assets. Those are 4 picks that are now 4 players on really team-friendly contracts. And when you think of the new CBA, you got to think of the team as a business as well. You have 4 assets now that you're basically not paying anything to. Mm-hmm. It's an easy way to fill out your roster.
If the Hornets make it to the finals next year, I'll eat my own shoes. How about that?
I will, dude. We'll make sushi out of them. That would be insane.
It would be insane.
I don't even know.
Well, the Trailblazers, I would say the Trailblazers did pretty darn good this draft. Not only did they acquire Scoot Henderson, which I think is a steal at 3. I would have taken him too. I think he's a generational talent. Maybe not as talented as Victor Wembanyama, but there was a point in time when they had a duel against each other, and people were saying maybe Scoot should go number one, which is crazy to think, a little while ago. I also love Chris Murray. I think he's going to be an instant contributor. I hate Ryan Rupert. I don't think that guy's going to be I don't hate him. That's mean to say. I don't think he's going to be very good. He had no semblance of a jump shot or offensive ability. They're just assuming upside. And I mean, it's good for a second round pick. I'll give him that. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think Ryan Rupert is going to play NBA ball for long. And that may sound harsh to people, but this is just, you have to remember, this is just our critique. You're allowed to have your opinions. We can have ours. I love to pick up a Scoot at number 3. I think he's an all-NBA talent. And, I mean, Chris Murray's brother, Keegan, he was a first-team All-Rookie last year. I don't see any reason why, or Keegan Murray, was all NBA rookie first team. I don't see why Chris Murray couldn't make the second team All-Rookie. So I'll give them let's give them an A-. So that's they got a good pickup. They did well. Outside of Ryan, I'm not a fan of him either.
Yeah. Well, I think somebody who also did incredibly this draft, and you're starting to see a pattern here. A lot of these top end picks are, acquiring really good talent, or what we assume to be really good talent. But I am just absolutely surprised that Cam Whitmore fell to 20. And I know there have been a lot of reports. A lot of people have been talking about the reports that maybe there was a medical issue that he fell. We're starting to hear that maybe it was a character thing. And I just want to point out that could possibly be true. However, I am not necessarily sold on that fact. I think that a lot of these teams they had their heart set on maybe 3 or 4 players that they assumed would be around there. And then seeing Cam Whitmore continue to fall, maybe they were scared. That's kind of my guess. And then he just continued to fall until he hit 20. I don't think there's going to be that big of a character issue down the line. In fact, I think that this guy who was picked at 20 is going to contribute more early on than Amen Thompson, who was picked at 4.
Yeah, I think Amen is going to take a season or 2 to get his legs under him. I think Cam Whitmore should come in with a chip on his shoulder. I'm going to give a solid A because they have their point guard of the future. And Cam Whitmore, I mean, we saw this happen to Jared Butler, where there was a health scare and he went from 14 all the way to 40. So while Jared Butler, I don't think has the same kind of upside as Cam, I expect him to come in and play really hard and still earn his roster spot. And I think playing under Ime Udoka is going to do that for this team. I think they're going to make a massive splash next year. They're not the same bottom feeder they were for the past 3 years.
I don't necessarily think so. I think that they still have the same issues that they did last year. There's still a bunch of young, raw talent. But if they are able to acquire some veterans on there, I think they have a really bright future. And the Detroit Pistons. I don't know if a lot of people really assumed that they were going to take Ausar Thompson. But I honestly see a decent fit. When I saw that they were going to potentially take Jarris Walker, another big, when they're so stacked with bigs. They got Marvin Bagley. Isaiah Thomas. They've got... just Jalen Duren, a multitude of bigs. I was just very hesitant for them, but they took Ausar Thompson, who can play, the 1, the 2, the 3. He's probably going to be slotted more into that 3 role, as they already have their guards of the future. I see a lot of potential here. And Marcus Sasser, he's a really sneaky, good guard. I think there's a lot to like about him as well.
I like Ausar. I want to put that out there before I say anything. I love Ausar Thompson. In fact, on episode 1, you and I both made the prediction that we think Ausar has a higher ceiling than Amen. And I still stick by that because he's the better defender, he's the better shooter, and he can play multiple positions where his brother can only play one. With that said, I'm not a fan of this for Detroit at all. They're guard heavy. Like, are we really going to try to slot this kid at the 3? Because I'll tell you this, he is a good defender for sure, but he's going to run into guys like, let's see, Mikal Bridges for one. Lauri Markkanen will eat this kid's lunch. Okay, there are some big, powerful 3s out there. I think that he's more of a 1 or 2 and an emergency style 3. If they plan on having him spot up and shoot, you're going to waste his talent. I think at this point there were better picks on the board that fit the system of Detroit more than Ausar does. With that said, he was still the best guy on the board in my opinion. So what can you do? They're going to get a C from me though.
Okay, interesting. I think I'm going to slot him a little higher at a B. But the Orlando Magic, I think that we're going to differ on this one. Why don't you go first and talk about these two guys?
Well, Anthony Black is a great pickup for him. They can run rotations where Anthony Black can be the smallest guy on the floor, and he's 6'6" and a half, 6'7". That's pretty wild to think about. I don't like the fact that they took Jet Howard this high. But they did that for a reason. Obviously, they like his shooting capabilities, and that is something they desperately needed. Overall, I think that when you have guys like Paulo Banchero on your team, you want to build around that. And these are two pretty decent pieces to do that, especially with a guy like Anthony Black who can handle the rock for you and wants to facilitate and takes pride on his defense. They're going to get a B+ from me.
Okay, I'm going to give them a C-.
Ooh, harsh.
I don't like Anthony Black, and I think I've made it pretty clear. I don't think that he's going to be a bad player. I need to just straightforward. I need to say that. I think that he has potential. He can be something good. What I don't like about him is when I watch him shoot the ball, he just doesn't look like he has a great form. It seems like it almost needs a complete rehaul. I mean, I guess one could argue that maybe that's not the case, but his final 24 games, he shot 25% from 3, so he was extremely cold from there. On his catch and shoots, his unguarded catch and shoots, only 21%. All you're doing is slotting another guy into the Orlando Magic who can't shoot the ball from 3. So they're going to be clogged in the lane. It's going to make it harder for Franz Wagner, Paulo Banchero to really drive in, to cut. I do like Black again. I just don't think he's a really good fit with the Magic. I hate the Howard pick at 11. I think you could have taken Grady Dick. I think you could have taken Jordan Hawkins. I think both those guys are going to traject higher than Jet Howard. Again, C-, not a big fan.
All right.
But with the Pacers, they made some interesting moves. They were originally at 7, and then they traded down to get the guy they were projected to get, Jarace Walker. And we'll talk a little bit more about the team that moved up, but there were trade rumors surrounding maybe somebody was going to move up to get this guy, and so the Pacers took advantage of that, moved down one slot, get the guy they still like. Jarace Walker, I think, is a good pick. I also love Ben Shepherd. He's kind of a quiet, no-name guy who's been rising in the ranks from Belmont. Really, really good shooter. Did really well in the combine. I think that he has a great trajectory. I think the Pacers just are able to find some steals. Last year they found Nembhard, who's become one of their focal points. I also really like Isaiah Wong. I saw him at the combine. You see him in the March Madness. He had an incredible play there. He just seems like a thoroughbred. He's 6'3", which is maybe why he fell down, 6'2", 6'3", but he can shoot the ball. He can do it all. So what do you think about them?
Yeah, A for me, because anytime you have multiple draft picks under this new CBA regime, even if a lot of these players don't pan out to be something amazing or transcendent, as long as they can play a role on your team, you have tradable assets. I also think Jarace Walker is an absolute nightmare of a human being when he's playing defense. And that is something that the Pacers really needed. So I love it.
Well, we've got the Washington Wizards, and a team that we alluded to early on. They acquired Bilal Coulibaly. I believe they actually acquired him at 7. Got a little mistake right there. And then Tristan Vucevic. Just talking a little bit about Tristan right now. I think Vucevic, he had a really good showcase at the Combine, and it had him rise a little bit in the ranks in the second round. Some people had him going as high as the early 30s. But he's somebody that has a little bit of potential there. He could be a really good backup, something like that at the center position. And then we have Bilal Coulibaly, who has seen a ton of variance, who has skyrocketed, playing alongside Victor Wembanyama. And I've talked a little bit about him. Just quick recap. He was playing main minutes for a French team, and you got to remember that the EuroLeague doesn't necessarily care about development or who you're going to be in 5 years. They care about how good you are now, and Coulibaly was playing in the finals. He was playing meaningful minutes alongside Victor Wembanyama, and he was doing pretty well for himself. However, I do not think that he's a number 7 pick. I don't think he's a top 10 draft pick. And I think that of all the guys in the top 10, he's the highest chance to bust. I give Washington Wizards an overall C.
See, I'm going to give him a B+ because I love the pickup of Bilal Coulibaly, and I think this is the perfect team for him to go and actually develop where there isn't any pressure. I think that when you have this really young team that it was completely torn down to the studs, we're looking at a very different team next year. You got Tyus Jones, who was the best backup point guard in the league behind Ja Morant. You have Jordan Poole. You have Bilal Coulibaly. That's a great starting 3, in my opinion. I wouldn't mind seeing Tristan start as well. I think Bilal has ridiculous upside. I think he could be a bust, but I don't think he will be. I think as long as he learns how to continue to develop his defense. I mean, OG Anunoby is touted all the time, and he's a 15 points per game kind of guy. So I could see Bilal coming that easily and being very coveted by teams. I think that was a great pickup.
Well, moving into the Utah Jazz, we're both big Utah Jazz fans, and so we probably have a lot to say about these draft picks. I think the Jazz ultimately did a pretty good job. About a day or two, or essentially the week before the draft, they were projected to get Taylor Hendricks at 9, Keyonte George at 16, and Bryce Sensabaugh was around this range, just around 25, 26. So it seemed like they did what they wanted to. I have heard reports about Taylor Hendricks. Essentially, this was from Leaf to Lean, who literally works for the Utah Jazz. He has a podcast with them as well. He had heard that the Jazz didn't really like Hendricks. They didn't see a lot of upside with him. And so it seems to me that it feels like number 9, maybe it was a consolation prize. We had heard that they liked Anthony Black. We had heard that they really liked Bilal Coulibaly, but Taylor Hendricks kind of fell to them. And I'm totally okay with that. He's a good player. I also really love Keyonte George. I have been on a Keyonte George train since before he even came to Baylor. I think that he is just a solid player overall. He's lost some weight in the offseason. He is prepared to come into the NBA and make some moves. What do you think?
Total A from me. Taylor Hendricks is like this rare breed of power forward that has great defensive skills, but can still space the floor with a 40% three-point shot. Yeah, give me that guy all day. That just makes this Utah Jazz front court even more terrifying. I think Keyonte George, number 3. He's going to be rocking number 3, and I love that. I'm buying that jersey for sure. I think there's tons of upswing and upside for him. I think he could develop into a point guard. I think he has underrated ball handling skills that can really develop too. And I like Bryce Sensabaugh. A, total A for the Jazz. Plus, they got multiple picks. For my criteria, if you got multiple picks, that's assets somewhere down the line.
Mm-hmm. It seems like they weren't really aggressive, but they were projected to really want Keyonte George, and so there's that. And I'm going to give him a B. because maybe they wanted some people more than others and they didn't really make any moves. But I think these guys, all three of them, have some upside.
I don't know if it's that they didn't want to make moves. I think it was probably impossible. I think a lot of guys were gridlocked.
Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe they weren't willing to do so. But I am going to give the Dallas Mavericks an A on this. I think Dereck Lively is going to be an incredible player. I think that the fact that they were able to move down and still get the guy that they wanted to is awesome. I think that he has a lot of upside. I know that, Doc, we've talked a little bit about his pro day and his combine a little bit, where he shot 14 threes in a row. There's some tape out with that too. He seems like a solid, player. He didn't really shoot many jump shots in college, but he did it in high school. And so he could develop into something like that, but he really emanates somebody like Walker Kessler, and he can have some immediate impact, especially next to Luka Doncic. Olivier Maxence Prosper, I'm not too high on, but a lot of people think he has upside.
This is a B for sure, possibly B plus, because anytime you can move off of Davis Bertans and still get Dereck Lively, that's a win. And I think that this kid's blocking instincts, his defensive instincts are great, and that's exactly what this team needs. We know that Luka and Kyrie are just all offense all the time, and what did they miss? They missed Dorian Finney-Smith. They missed that defensive gridiron that they had. I think Dereck Lively is perfect for them. And why not take a swing on Oliver, Let's see if he can become something.
Olivier?
But I love, yeah. Thank you. But I love the Lively pick for sure.
Yeah. The Thunder, they moved up to get Cason Wallace. I think that he has a lot of upside, even though people might not say it. I think that he could be an all-defensive player at some point in his career, which just gives the fact that he could be an upside swing. He was a decent shooter. He's coming from Kentucky, and a lot of people, what they say about Kentucky guards is when they come into the NBA, they kind of explode on the scene. Keontae Johnson, I haven't seen too much of him, but from what I've seen, I like him. He's a good pick at 50.
Yeah, this is a solid B for me. I like it. You got multiple assets, and Cason Wallace allows them to move off of Lou Dort if they want to. Like, he has all the same skills as Lou Dort does.
Does he have the size of Lou Dort, though?
I'm pretty sure they're very similar. Lou Dort, I believe, is 6'6".
Okay. So, and Cason Wallace is a little smaller.
Isn't he like 6'3", something like that?
He has 6'2" without shoes.
Defensive instincts, though, as Lou Dort. So if you want to, you can still put him definitely in that front court and let him do his thing.
Good point. The Toronto Raptors select Grady Dick, and I did not expect him to fall this far. I thought that Orlando might take him at 11, but subsequently he fell to 13, and I think that he's a good fit anywhere he goes. I'm going to give them a B+. I think that he's a little bit of a steal at 13. I think that he can make an impact instantly, and he could turn into somebody like Kevin Huerter.
Yeah, they get a B from me, for sure. I think that Grady Dick, I actually had him going at 16 on my big board, but he has all the skills. And the reason I had him so high, people, you have to understand, listeners, fanatics, friends, subscribers, this draft is just saturated with talent. I mean, the fact that, like, most people had Grady Dick going at 10, he dropped to 13, like, this speaks volumes as to the talent that's coming out of this draft. But this is a B for me. He has all the skills to go to whatever team he wants to and have an immediate impact. Is a three-point shooter.
I agree with that one. And Jordan Hawkins going to the Pelicans. What do you think about that?
I like it. Another B as well.
See, I'm a big fan of Hawkins. I think that he is potentially one of the best shooters of the draft, if not the best shooter of the draft. And so I see, a guy who could be contributing very easily, a guy who can score very easily off of a pick at 3.
Look at that shot.
Yeah, he's something else. And, he was the primary guy for UConn as they led to the title. And so maybe the fact that he was taken at 14 is pretty good. And we're just going to have to see how he slots in with the rest of the crew. But I like it. I'm going to give it a B+, maybe even an A-, because I think this guy has got some potential.
He can definitely shoot. That is for sure. That is for sure.
For the Atlanta Hawks, I think that they got Kobe Buffkin, who is an absolute steal. This guy was shooting 50, 40, 90 his final 6 weeks of college, and he's just an overall good player, not a lot of weaknesses. Seth Lundy, he's got a good defensive presence. And Mohammed was picked up from a trade. I'm not too sure about that guy, but I'm going to give the Atlanta Hawks, a solid B plus just for acquiring Kobe Buffkin and maybe being a future guard or guard of the future.
I'm going to give them an A minus on this because they picked up Kobe Buffkin at 15. And I think he's the kind of guy with the shooting splits that can slot a next to Trae Young and be just fine. I like that. So now you have someone in the event that you can't, let's say you can't re-sign DeJounte Murray. Okay. Heaven forbid, let's just say that happens. You can now slot Kobe Buffkin in there. The only question I have is how is Quinn Snyder going to deal with the young development of these players? Because honestly, he was not very good outside of Donovan Mitchell here in Utah. That's my question. And honestly, I don't even know if he's going to do that well. He did great with Donovan, but we'll see. All right, now we have Jalen Hood-Schifino and Maxwell Lewis. Good pickup. I like this because I think Jalen Hood, 6'5", sneaky passer. I think that he should be able to develop quite nicely. With that said, it can be hard sometimes for guys to develop in the bright lights of LA with such a rich championship history. I mean, you're coming in and you're playing next to LeBron James. But with that said, there are young guys who have made a splash. I mean, Austin Reeves and Roy Hachimura stepped up. I don't see why Jalen Hood-Schifino couldn't do that himself, What do you think?
Yeah, totally. I just want to say that I do like Jalen Hood-Schifino a lot. There is an alarming stat about him. Since 2008, any player with a negative plus minus or BPM really hasn't panned out. We've looked at Zaire Williams, Patrick Baldwin Jr., Ike Anigbogu, Kostas Antetokounmpo. All of these guys had negative BPMs coming in, and Jalen Hood-Schifino also has a negative plus minus coming in. And so it's not something you would really hope for in maybe the pick that you're getting, with all of those guys in association. But, you can't really be lazy with stats. He really could pan out and be something great.
I'm going to give him a C+.
I liked Maxwell Lewis. I'm going to definitely give them a B+, because I think Maxwell Lewis was a steal at 40. What do you think of this guy?
I like him. I like him a lot. He knows how to win. Came from UCLA. He was, he actually there was a list of accomplishments that I was really impressed by. I know he made UCLA history books for being in the top 10 for all scoring for their team all time, which is pretty amazing. I think that he has a great shot. And I think he's going to the perfect kind of culture. He comes from a winning culture, and he's going to a winning culture. I think this is great. I'm giving him a B. I like it. I can see Spoelstra just playing him right away too.
Mm-hmm. I think that this guy could be a steal. I think that he's going to do pretty well. And I was hoping he would slide to the Utah Jazz, who I love. But I think that Jaime Jaquez Jr. is going to be a potential all-rookie guy. I'm going to give them a B+.
Ooh, I like that.
Brandin Podziemski, a guy that I have touted for a little bit. I love this guy. I don't know if I necessarily love the fit with Golden State. I don't know, just based off of Golden State's track record, they don't really develop their rookies.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that this guy can be an instant contributor. Just watching him from the combine, I really liked what I saw. He nearly got a triple-double in a game where most people were trying to show off their talents. He was just being a ball handler, a good passer, and he wasn't being a ball hog. I loved him.
Yeah, when you think of the combine, you think of all of these young players who were under the stress of trying to show an immediate impact on the court. Why should talent scouts be picking me? Brandin Podziemski instead almost averaged a triple-double, and took complete control as the ball handler for his team. Setting guys up, that shows a good feel for the game. What I'm worried about with you is Golden State does not have a good track record with playing these guys. Look what's happened to the majority of their young talent. So I just hope that they develop him properly and at least give him a chance the way they gave Jordan Poole a chance. I'd really like to see that. I think he has a lot of upside.
Maybe he's the replacement. We'll have to see. But I'm going to give them a B. B+.
I'm going to give them a B-.
Nice. Maybe moving on a little bit quicker with these final 10. We've got the Nets acquiring Noah Clowney, Dereck Whitehead, and Jalen Wilson. What do you think about this, Doc?
This is going to be an A for me. Anytime you have multiple assets, it's a big deal. I like Noah Clowney. I like Dereck Whitehead. I think he could be a very nice backup for Mikal Bridges. And I really don't know much about Jalen Wilson, I got to be honest, but I've seen his name pop up quite a bit, especially leading up to the draft. So I like it. I like what they did here.
Yeah, Jalen Wilson averaged around 20 points per game. I think he was either a junior or a senior. He was the lead guy for Kansas when they were, the number one team in the country. So he's a bucket getter. We'll have to see how he really pans out. I like the upside of Dereck Whitehead and Noah Clowney. I think that they did a pretty good job. I'm going to give them a B+. What do you think of these guys?
I'm going to give them a B. I think they did what they could with what they had. I think that they're focusing a lot more in other areas outside of the draft. And when you have 34 and 54, what can you really get that's going to be a steal unless you're really putting in overtime in this area? And I think that their front office right now is more interested in looking on to free agency, especially with reports coming out that they are trying to court Draymond Green. They're focused on building a championship roster. So I'll give them a B.
Okay.
They did what they could with what they had.
I agree with that. I think Colby Jones could have a little bit of upside as well. Looks like he was pretty good in college. With the Memphis Grizzlies, they selected Gigi Jackson, and you're going to have to forgive us. I'm not really sure about Tariq Biberovic, but Gigi Jackson, he's a guy who a lot of people said in next year's draft, if he stayed in, could be a potential top 5 pick, even the number 1 pick. Although he had some poor combine results, he seemed like he was tired, and he said that he was sick at the time, which might be true. You never know. But he had some character issues during the year that he was playing in college, and so you never know. But I actually like him. I think that he could pan out.
Yeah, I'm going to give him a B- here. I think GG at 45 is a steal. And, if he plays with that kind of chip on his shoulder, he's going to fit in great with Memphis. That's what they do. Plus, I think Memphis their culture is going to grow a lot with the addition of Marcus Smart. I think him and Steven Adams are really going to smooth out the kinks in their locker room. So I think it's going to be a great place for GG to grow. I mean, look what they did with Desmond Bane. They took Desmond and plugged him right in. And that guy is one of the best three-point shooters in the NBA. And he went at 26, 27? Like, he was a steal. I don't see any reason why they can't develop Gigi Jackson. They have a great track record for developing young talent. That's what this entire team is. Ja Morant, you had Dylan Brooks, you had Desmond Bane, Tyus Jones, Triple J. That's our entire team. So, perfect place for Gigi.
Yep. The Clippers were able to get Kobe Brown with the 30th and Jordan Miller. I like Kobe Brown. I think that he could be a good player with the organization. I thought that he was a little underrated when he was playing in college. He really could be a steal. I'm not sure about Jordan Miller. We'll just have to see as the years go on with him. But I think Los Angeles did pretty decent. They got a pretty decent player in Kobe Brown. Solid B.
I'll give them a B-. I also think they have bigger things to worry about in terms of what they're going to do with the CBA moving forward. But they do have multiple assets. That is a win, in my opinion. Now they just have to develop these young guys.
Mm-hmm. Amani Bates was selected around 58, 59, if I'm not mistaken, to the Cavaliers. This is a guy who was highly regarded in high school, but kind of fell off the draft boards as he was a little bit inconsistent in college. He still has some upside. He played pretty decent in the combine. We'll have to see.
I'm going to give them an A for this because I love Amani Bates all the way in the second round. Honestly, if I was the Jazz, I would have tried to move into the second round to try to get him. I think he has a Oh yeah. I love Amani Bates. I think he's fantastic. He has massive potential. He just has to go to a team where he can develop. And honestly, I think Cleveland is a great fit. Their entire young core is made up of guys younger than Donovan Mitchell. This is going to be a great place for him to buy into their team culture, which they're still rebuilding. And I love that. Good pickup. Very good pickup.
Phoenix got a guy by the name of Toumani Camara. I don't know if you've heard too much about this guy, but watching his tape, he's not really much of a jump shooter, more of a down low guy, gets it by the rim, puts it in. He had a pretty good combine showing as well, which probably helped his draft stock. I don't mind him at all. I kind of like him at 52. What do you think?
Honestly, I can't even recognize the name. This is honestly, we got to be real with everyone. This is our first year really diving into the draft the way we did. And it was so much fun, and we learned so much about these players. I haven't even seen this guy's name, though. With that said, I don't know what you can really pick up at 52. But that's me being ignorant because look at what Denver picked up at 41. You know what I mean? So I'll give him a solid B+.
This is one that I loved. I saw the Wolves acquired Leonard Miller at 33. I think this guy can show lottery potential. I think it's a steal. Jalen Clark, you get what you get at 53, but I love Leonard Miller. What do you think?
A+. Total A+. Taking Leonard Miller at 33, this is a kid who comes from Canada, right? Who's never really had any kind of workouts and in a country that's not as basketball heavy as the United States. They don't have the same kind of developmental programs. He played in a high school, just a run-of-the-mill high school league in Canada. Never played college ball, went to the G League, and in 1 year was able to turn around and average 18 and 10, including multiple 30-plus point games when Scoot Henderson sat. He's versatile. He knows how to defend. Against Victor Wembanyama, even though they lost that second scrimmage game, he put up 16, 9, and 5. That's 5 assists. I love this kid at this pickup. I think he's perfect. I mean, I wish the Jazz took him. I love Leonard Miller. This is an A+ for sure. He is going to be a guy who can contribute now. He's a sponge. He wants to learn. Great pickup by the T-Wolves. Good job, guys. Great pickup.
The Milwaukee Bucks got Andre Jackson Jr., Chris Livingston. Like you've been mentioning at a lot of these teams, is they're probably not focused too much on the draft. I do think Andre Jackson Jr. could be good. I think they acquired him. They traded to get him. Maybe he could prove something decent. I'm giving them a B.
Yeah, they'll get a B- from me. When you have 36 and 58, it's hard to find guys that are going to be an impact now kind of player. But I like the trade assets if you need to.
Mm-hmm. Denver got Julian Strawther, which they traded to get Jalen Pickett and Hunter Tyson. They also traded to get Hunter Tyson. I do like Julian Strawther. He had really good stats. He could be, I think he's in his senior year. He's a 6'6" wing. He could be something special, especially around Jokic. I'm going to give them a B+ on this one.
Yeah, B+ from me as well, A- range, because they clearly saw something very special in these guys, and they have a great track record as a front office in terms of finding diamonds in the rough and making them rise to their full potential. So if they traded specifically for these guys, that means these guys are going to be special. A-. Good job, Denver, and congratulations on that win.
In Boston, as the final one, got Jordan Walsh. He played with Arkansas alongside Anthony Black, Nick Smith Jr. This guy was really more of a defensive presence. Some people had him as high as the first round. I think maybe the Celtics saw something in him as well. We'll have to see. Just, I keep this maybe sound like a broken record, but a solid B for them.
I'm going to give him an A-. I think Jordan Walsh is going to be a player who can impact right now on the defensive side. That kid plays with some serious heart, man. Like, I love that. I think that he's a gritty, very, very Royce O'Neal kind of player in the sense that he doesn't need the ball in his hands to be pesky and to be effective. I like that pickup. Good job, Bob.
Thank you for watching another episode of the Full Court Press NBA podcast. For the full podcast, click the link below and subscribe for more hoops content.